Hello, and welcome to
Let's Talk About Book.
Where we talk about book.
I'm Straub.
And I'm Smeevca.
I think we forgot to do it last time, actually.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember.
I think we talked about it at the end. We were like, I think we didn't do our names.
That's kind of familiar now that you bring it up. And also, on the subject of that, we're reading Mistborn.
Yes.
Mistborn is what we're reading right now.
Yes.
It will be in the title, so it's not like, but
yeah, you should know what you're cooking.
Yeah, because they're actually up now.
Yes, yeah, we actually finally posted up through the filming of this one, we had only filmed and not posted them.
Yeah, it's like before. Okay, so it's like this is the first one that we're recording since they've actually gone up. I think in the previous one that we recorded, they hadn't gone up yet, but now I've uploaded some of them, and I think there's one that's still scheduled to come out but hasn't come out yet. But by the time this one actually comes out, that'll be way down the line.
Yeah.
Because we're doing every other week.
Yeah, we'll do every other week, and we did the first 3 at once. But so then a week after we did the next one, and then 2 weeks after that will be episode 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it'll be every other week from then on out to make sure that we have time to do it, because it's amazing how it's only 5 episodes. And I mean, the first 3 we sort of did all at once just so there was stuff there. People had plenty to look at. But it's it's so funny. It's oh man, it's so great. I don't have to worry about it being every week kind of thing and feeling oh my goodness, I'm behind. It's once these next couple ones I actually get around to editing them, I can just throw them on up.
Yep.
And there's no visuals.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just super easy. It's just most of I've come to learn, as all must, the export time and upload time, and it's we're making a podcast that's 2 hours, and then you have to export that. Exporting the audio, no problem. But then it's just let me slap this in a video with a single image over it the whole time. Super basic stuff. And then you export it, and it's that's gonna be an hour.
Yeah.
It's and then gonna upload it to YouTube, and YouTube's that's gonna be an hour and a half. Okay. But yeah, so.
And I've also now listened to the first 4 episodes because I hadn't listened to any of our recordings.
Yep.
But when we put them out, then I did listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Which has been interesting. And I took a few screenshots of some choice moments where Smeevca made some interesting comments or theories or whatever.
And then so once this is all done, you can point and laugh.
Yep. That's one of my favorite things from one of the Wheel of Time podcasts. Was a big Wheel of Time thing, from the first 3 books or whatever. And Gus.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. I remember you showing me that, where it's here's a compilation of all the times that you...
that she was so close to getting it right. Oh, it was amazing.
Yep.
She was talking right over it, and he was bringing her back around to try and get her to realize it.
Yeah, just being giving hints, and then her being who cares about that? This thing. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah. So it's we're actually doing it, and there's one person who is subscribed who's not someone that we know personally.
It's whoa,
what do you know? So that's fun. But yeah, it's a whole thing. I get to see the YouTube back end, and that's wild. What a wild place full of weird statistics.
Weird statistics and graphs and...
Yep. And you'll be looking at the video, and it'll say it has 3 views, and then you look at the back end of YouTube, and it's no, it's only got 2 views, and I'm what? Or one part of the back end will say it has 3 views, and the other part will say it has 2 views, and I'm What's the truth? So, that's fun.
Yeah. So this time we did 24 through, I think we said we were only going to do...
We said that we were going to do 24 through 27, and then... And then we just listened to 3 more chapters, so we did 24 through 30.
Yeah, we did quite a bit.
Yes, we did a big old chunk, because we were just, like, listening to the audiobook, and then we got to that point, and it was just like, I just want to keep listening. So we kept listening, and then we didn't record for a long time, and then we re-listened to it all again today.
Yep, so
record.
We've listened to it twice and kind of just refreshed it.
This is why we need it to be every other week instead of every week, because we do stuff like this, because we're like, I'm just gonna keep listening and then not record and then listen to a really huge chunk again.
Yeah. But the plan is to do after this 31 through
35.
35.
Yes, we actually planned it out and wrote it down ahead of time, like. And we never do.
We should stick to that.
We should stick to that, but, apparently we're unreliable, so who knows? The next one might just be the end of Mistborn, if we just get that excited about it. Yeah. But, we have other things that we can get excited about instead, if we have to.
But who knows?
Who knows? Because it is exciting. It's like we're so close to the end.
Yeah, we're so close.
we're genuinely so close to the end, and there's like 2 other whole books.
Yep.
And then 4 other whole books, right?
Yep. Plus some short stories.
And
standalone novels and stuff. We'll have to figure out what we want to do next.
Yeah. And one of these days I need to actually finish the Wheel of Time book that I'm in the middle of, unrelated to this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm like right towards the end of one Wheel of Time book, and I've been there for like a while now.
I have all the physical copies in the other room.
Yeah, and so it's like I just need to do that unrelated to this podcast. But it's always like, if I'm going to be listening to something, I'm going to be listening to Mistborn.
Yeah.
Because it's for this, and because Mistborn's good and fun. Not that Wheel of Time isn't. But I've been really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And Wheel of Time was kind of getting on my nerves in some ways. Yeah. In that book specifically.
Yeah.
So.
You're in book 7. It's it's considered to be like part of the slog.
Yeah. Which, is a whole thing.
Yeah.
So instead I get to go through Sanderland.
Yeah.
Sanderland. Which I say that as if it doesn't have an actual name. It's Cosmere.
Yeah.
But my goodness, there's so many questions.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even getting, like, normally we get into, like, the beginning parts first.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just kind of tangenting a bunch.
I've been in, so I just finished the most recent Stormlight book, so the only thing I have left of Cosmere are the secret projects. So, yeah. I've been very much in Cosmere brain.
Yeah. And I've been enjoying it. It's like, I knew that I was gonna like it whenever. Yeah. Like, it's like it seemed. There go more pages.
Yep. A whole piece, a whole 10 pages has fallen out now.
Yeah, it's just like this poor book.
Join in next time to see how much more I lose of my book.
Yeah, because it's like this poor paperback. It's one of, what was it, like perfect binding or whatever they call it, and so just like it.
Yeah.
It falls apart super easily. But anyway, that's not what we were talking about. But I've been enjoying it, and it's like there's so many secrets. And I have so many questions, and it's like there's the immediate questions, because we're in like this sort of immediate present tense of the plot, right? Where it's like the world is the way it is, and we're trying to do something about it, and there's all these questions about how we're going to do it. But then these beginning bits at each of the chapters about like the ancient stuff, it's just like. But then there's all these like second level questions that I also don't have like an answer to. I'm just like, it's like, oh right, all these weird existential questions that I don't have about what the fuck the deepness is. It's just it's like because it's all gonna come together. I know that it all coalesces because that's what everyone always says about Sanderson, and there are these moments where like I've seen things like come together where it's like, oh, that's why we were doing this way, that's why this character is here, everything's important, it all fits together, and that's very satisfying. But I'm like, what's it gonna be?
Yep. We're in the middle part where we're just like, ah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and so much happened. It's like
a lot happened.
It's like so much happened in the part that we were supposed to read, and I was like, I just want to continue, and then more big stuff happened. And so I'm sure that's just gonna be how it is.
Yeah.
It's just like every couple chapters, it's just gonna be more big stuff happening until the end. The Sanderlanche, I hear.
We've been in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, especially like in this section and stuff.
Yes, this section has definitely felt like it because there's been like big changes.
Yeah.
And you know, being vague, but we can finally get into the.
Yeah. After the like 10-minute or 11-minute intro, we can get into the little intro segments.
Yes, the little epigraphs or whatever. Yeah. We've called them that before. I don't know if that's.
I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
In the end, I must trust in myself. I have seen men who have beaten themselves from the ability to recognize truth and goodness, and I do not think I am one of them. I can still see the tears in a young child's eyes and feel pain at his suffering. If I ever lose this, then I will know that I have passed beyond hope of redemption.
Yeah, good job, my guy. You've certainly done it, haven't you? Because it's like, you know, and they talk. The thing is that like they talk about it in the story, how there's this like difference between this Lord Ruler from the logbook versus the Lord Ruler that we know today.
Yeah,
and it's like what happened?
Yeah, what's happened to him?
The Well of Ascension.
Yeah.
You know, Rand goes to. Well, I was just gonna say a bunch of shit about the first book of Wheel of Time, but I won't. I won't keep talking about Wheel of Time and talk about like specific things that happened at the end of the first book because you know. It's like tune in to our Mistborn podcast where we spoil Wheel of Time for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next one. No man dies by my hand or command except that I wish there had been another way. Still, I kill them. Sometimes I wish that I weren't such a cursed realist.
All this Immortal Ruler stuff does also, and I was saying this earlier, make me think of One Piece. But again, everything makes me think of One Piece.
It's been great.
Well, you know, welcome to our Mistborn podcast where we talk about Wheel of Time and One Piece.
Right. Next one. Super long one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm growing so very tired.
Yep. I love that one. I love just any time the chapter starts and it's one of those really short ones. Just like, I'm growing so very tired. You know what, dude? Relatable.
It's the next one. I think I finally discovered why Rashak resents me so much. He does not believe that an outsider such as I, a foreigner, could possibly be the hero of ages. He believes that I have somehow tricked the philosophers, that I wear the piercings of the hero unjustly. According to Rashak, only a terraceman of pure blood should have been chosen as the hero. Oddly, I find myself more determined because of his hatred. I must prove to him that I can perform this task.
Yeah, and again, yeah. I mean, Sanderson literally wrote the end of Wheel of Time. So, like, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it's just like,
there's definitely some...
I feel like there's, like, very palpable inspiration.
Yeah.
And also, I do know, you know, again, it's like, I said this before, I'm sure that if I had read more fantasy in general, I could, like, connect this to things other than Wheel of Time, so that being my, like, one touchstone.
Yeah, but I think, like,
but
I think it's a pretty valid, you know, like, it's a known inspiration of his, so,
right.
you know.
Yeah, it's true. It feels so much. It feels so much like it to me. Like, I don't know. I worry that there's going to be a bunch of people who just, like, haven't read Wheel of Time who are going to be like, I can't. You guys just keep talking about it. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what? Read Wheel of Time. It's good. For the most part.
Yeah.
and yeah, because it's like, it really is. It's just, especially reading them back to back like I've been doing.
Yeah.
It just, like, it makes it so,
yeah,
like, clear, it seems to me, so.
Yeah. Sometimes my companions claim that I worry and question too much. However, while I may wonder about my stature as the hero, there is one thing that I have never questioned, the ultimate good of our quest. The deepness must be destroyed. I have seen it, and I have felt it. This name we give it is too weak a word, I think. Yes, it is deep and unfathomable, but it is also terrible. Many do not realize that it is sapient, but I've sensed its mind, such that it is, the few times that I've confronted it directly. It is a thing of destruction, madness, and corruption. It would destroy this world, not out of spite or out of animosity, but simply because that is what it does.
Good use of the word sapient, because it's one of those things where it's like, technically, actually,
yeah,
sapient is what we often mean when we say sentient, because sentient means like having senses.
Yeah,
and like lots of things have senses and can like sense their surroundings. Sapience is like the thinky bit that we're normally talking about, but like, who cares? like when you say sentient, people know what you mean. Sentient now like also means that, but it's just like it's fun hearing him say sapient.
Yeah. Okay, next one. The others all think I should have had Quan executed for betraying me. To tell the truth, I'd probably kill him this moment if I knew where he had gone. At the time, however, I just couldn't do it. The man had become like a father to me. To this day, I don't know why he suddenly decided I wasn't the hero. Why did he turn against me, denouncing me to the entire conclave of Worldbringers? Would he rather that the deepness win? Surely, even if I'm not the right one, as Quan now claims, my presence at the Well of Ascension couldn't possibly be worse than what will happen if the deepness continues to destroy the land.
You know, I mean, things are pretty bad now, so it's hard to say. Because that's the thing, it's like I don't know what the deepness is. Like, what's the deepness this whole thing? You know, the deepness, it kind of reminds me of... I mean, obviously, like, the deepness, it kind of makes me think of, like, ooh, Lovecraftian, it's deep and beyond our comprehension. It's like, he calls it, like, unfathomable or whatever. But also, it makes me think of the Adventure Zone. In the Adventure Zone, there's, like, a sort of a dark, all-consuming, like, mass that's destroying different universes.
Got you.
It's like eating the multiverse or something.
Reminds me of, what's it called?
I don't know.
I always remember, like, the other books in the series name and not, like, the one... Wrinkle in Time. God, there we go. A Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah.
There's something like that in it.
Well,
it's actually, I think, like, kind of later on in the series, like, A Wrinkle in Time more has, like, the big brain, but, like... there's in like a swiftly tilting planet there's like a big kind of thing like that, like universe eating dark mass type of thing.
Maybe we should do that on the podcast.
Wrinkle in Time?
Yeah,
I have them. I grew up with those books. I've read them a million times and absolutely adored them growing up. Because
I'm pretty sure I read A Wrinkle in Time a long time ago.
Yeah.
I have, like, these, like, vague memories of it, but, like, I certainly never read any of the, like, sequels.
A Wrinkle in Time is, like, the one that everyone knows and stuff like that. And it's my least favorite of the series that I've read.
That's funny.
Swiftly Tilting Planet is my favorite by far. It is, like, weirdly, like, sci-fi, like body switching, like trying to save the world. This is like like trying to like change time and shit. And there's like a flying talking unicorn, and it's this whole thing. It's great though. I love it. and
maybe in turn I'll have you read Keys to the Kingdom.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, it's because it's got a bunch of like kind of Christian stuff in it.
Yeah,
like sort of.
Same with L'Engle. It's all she's very Christian.
Yeah. It's like I don't know if like Garth Nix I don't know if it's like, you know, it's one of those things like looking back I don't know if it's going to be like obviously this is like a religious book, but it definitely has like a lot of like religious reference.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's very you know, the bad guys are the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
But also it's funny because like he talks about like the 7 virtues, which almost no one ever talks about, and they suck. It's like we have this being that's a personification of like the 7 heavenly virtues, and they like suck and everyone hates them until they gain temperance, and then and then they get like a little bit more chill, but up until that point everyone's like, you're just kind of a righteous asshole, which is funny. But yeah, also Keys to the Kingdom is just like, it has some of my favorite like world building, like quite literally. It's like we have built this world and it runs on like this weird system where it's like we have all these like the bureaucracy that runs the universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's so fun. They're like in a part of the house where it's like, oh yeah, the weather and like the day-night system's been broken here for like a long time, so it's just been stuck like this.
Yeah.
and no one's bothered to like get it fixed, so just like day and night doesn't work properly on this floor. Yeah.
All right, so now that we've gone on this huge tangent,
yes.
I think we have one more of the little things to read, right?
Yeah.
Other men worry whether or not they will be remembered. I have no such fears, even disregarding the terrorist prophecies. I have brought such chaos, conflict, and hope to this world that there is little chance that I will be forgotten. I worry about what they will say of me. Historians can make what they wish of the past. In 1,000 years' time, will I be remembered as the man who protected mankind from a powerful evil, or will I be remembered as a tyrant who arrogantly tried to make himself a legend?
Dun dun dun. And see, that's interesting, because it's like arrogantly tried to make himself a legend. That's interesting, given some of the stuff that we've read in this chapter. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. Now we've gotten those. We've done those.
Yes.
This poor book.
Yeah, this poor book just coming apart. But yes. So I guess now we.
Yeah, your notes.
Yes, the chapter by chapter, chapter 24.
Mm-hmm.
My notes are a little wonky towards the beginning, because whenever we were first listening to this together, I was not taking a lot of notes. And I took way more notes this time, especially in the beginning. It's always, I take more notes in the beginning and then trail off as it goes on. I'm bad about that. But this time, so they're a little out of order, but, so chapter 24 starts with, like, Ham's coming back from the garrison.
Right.
And Vin's talking to him. And they're talking about, like, training her with pewter and stuff.
Yeah, she's going to go with him to the Luthadel garrison to train.
Mm-hmm. Yes, to the Luthadel garrison. And it's like... and also there's, like, talk about, like, oh, Breeze, you can go down to, like, the rebellion army and, like, lead them some.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, why? It's like, well, I don't want Eden doing it all the time, and like, you know, your morale. It's like having soothers and rioters with the army is like good, because they can be like useful for like morale and things.
Right.
It's a note that I have. I don't know if they talked about that specifically or that was just something I was thinking. But it's like, you're good with people, and it's like, I'm good at like leading people from like secretly from the shadows, not being a general. It's like, well, whatever.
Replace Eden? You mean for me to lead the army? Why not? You're great at giving orders. From the background, my dear man. I don't stand out in front. Why, I'd be a general. Do you have any idea how ludicrous that sounds?
And you know, I really got to give it to fucking what's his name? Michael Kramer?
Yes.
I don't know why I'm always like so hesitant to say Michael Kramer.
Yeah.
He's so good. I enjoy his like voice for Breeze.
Yeah.
I enjoy his voice for like everyone basically. And
yeah, he's great.
He's so good. And like listening to these chapters, so it's like when we get to like Ellen and Ellen's friends, the way that like Ellen's friends talk and stuff is just like, I don't know. It's so charming. His like silly aristocracy voices.
Yeah. He had to do a ton of them in Wheel of Time.
Yes. Oh yes. Him and his wife who can't agree on how to say the same words. Yeah, it's like in Wheel of Time, they're always, it's like they live together. Why do you pronounce these words differently?
Yeah.
But anyway. So that's what was going on, and then it's like we head off with Ham and Vin to the garrison.
Yep.
And oh wait, no. Before that, so Ham has torn the sleeves off of his uniform to make a vest, and Dachshund's like, do you know how much money that was? And Ham says something about how money is just an abstract representation of like effort, of like basically of like labor value, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh damn, Marx has like a legitimately Marxian interpretation of what money is. Because it's like straight up how like, it's like when
Here it is. Everything costs money. But what is money? A physical representation of the abstract concept of effort. Well, wearing that uniform for so long was pretty was a pretty neat effort. I'd say this vest and I are even now.
Yeah, it's like, because, what was it, in, like, Capital, Marx talks about how it's like, you know, like, the effort, the labor that goes into producing the goods, and that's where, like, the surplus value comes from, and so it's like, money is a representation of value, or of labor value, because it's like, and so it's like, oh damn, this is like, Ham's like fucking writing Capital, writing Das Kapital out here in the fucking ska underground, and then we go with Vin and Ham to the garrison.
Yes.
And Vin has a little bit of an existential crisis about who she is.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she's going out in her sort of like Vin urchin mode. Her sort of like regular ska non-noble mode. And she's like, it's another disguise. Who's the real me? Is it this Vin? Is it Valette? Do any of my friends really know me? You know, and I'm like, the real you's probably the you that's like with the folks back at the hideout. That's probably like the realest you. Yeah. But you're also like, do they even know me? And it's like, you know, do any of us really know each other? But yeah, and then Ham's like, it's great to be out here. Ham's just like having a grand old time.
Yeah.
And Ham talks about his family.
Yeah. He said like that he doesn't tell where his family is at all. Like he said, haven't even told Kel which city they live in. And
something I missed from earlier. One of the great houses left. That was from the talks before. They left the hideout. When they were talking at the hideout, they talked about like some of the political unrest and how one of the great houses has like fled, and so there's like they can't uphold the keep in Luthadel anymore, and so they're like gone.
Yes, House Tikio.
House Tikio, and so that's like just a bit of importance for the sort of plotty things that are going on. But yeah, and I also have Spook speak on here because they had that joke where they were speaking like Spook to like Bug
Breeze,
Breeze, and Dachshund says something in the slang that like is meaningless.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I wanna pick apart the slang. I was like looking at it some earlier, and I'm like, how much linguistic consideration did Brandon Sanderson put into this? I don't know, but there could still be some like consistent patterns and stuff. Anyway, jumping all around, but I think now we should be more like back on track, because talking about Ham and his family. Family lives somewhere else. Kel doesn't even know where they are, and I have Ham's gotten out. When I was listening to this the first time, I was like, okay, interesting, because it'd been like, because in like the previous section, we have this sort of like conflict between Ham and Kel over like
the garrison and everything.
Yeah, well,
or sorry, the rebels in the caves.
Yeah, the rebels in the caves, and sort of like the way that Kel's trying to like lead them, and like kind of like lying to them, and all these sorts of things, and so there'd been like some tension there, and then like when I was first listening to this, I'm like, so like Ham has kind of like an out. He has like an escape plan. He's like, I just need to get enough money to like flee with my family somewhere else. Like my family are like safe somewhere else. I'm over here making money. And so it's like Ham kind of has like perhaps more of a way to just be like, whoop, I'm gone. And so I was like, I'm worried that Ham's maybe gonna like betray us, because I'm like worried about betrayal because of how things went in the past. And I'm like, is there gonna be another betrayal? Is that gonna be like a part of the whole thing? Because like I'm also like, did Mayor actually like betray them, or was it some sort of other like weird sort of thing that happened? So I'm like, maybe it'll happen again, and so blah, 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 blah. And so that was like a lot of my thoughts going through the first time, and it's so funny going back and like rereading today, because it's like, now I know future things. And it's like, you know, I didn't remember like every little detail. I wanted to reread it so that it'd be more fresh for this recording, but still just like, it's funny.
It's
funny knowing things. So Ham's got all that going on, and it's like, all right.
And him talking about, like, one of the reasons for keeping his family secret is because he's a misting, so if he's found out, then they'll go for his family because of that.
Yeah, because it's like, then, there's the chance that any of them could also be, like, mistings and stuff, because it comes from nobility and whatnot, so it's like, gotta cut out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, gets... And he talks about, like, the garrison and how it's like they're mercenaries.
Yep, and they're there mainly for the money. Like, that's the way that they chose to keep their families,
Yep, it's the classic, everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah. And he has a bit more, like, sympathy for them than a lot of the others in the crew seem to. Because, like, Kelsier, before it was like, good, I should kill a ska guard, like, even better because he's betraying.
Yeah. It's like he chose to work for the nobility and the Lord Ruler rather than, like, working against it.
Yeah. And Ham definitely doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, which sort of bring to another note I have here. Vin's wondering if Kel would be different if he sees the throne. Like, talking about, like, the rebellion and stuff. Yeah. But reading the logbook, she knows Lord Ruler wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
Kel wants to kill the nobility, so there's worry he'll essentially just make them ska, and I said plus Well of Ascension. So basically, it's like, my thoughts around that, it's like, we're getting this sort of, like, parallel set up between, like, Kel and the Lord Ruler, and the sort of, like, worry that, like, Kel's sort of, like, it's like, well, if Kel ends up sort of, like, in charge, if the the revolution goes off as planned, and Kel ends up actually, like, in control, the Lord Ruler's dead and all that sort of stuff, it's like, is Kel gonna be, like, better?
Yeah.
Or is Kel sort of, like, his selfishness, his ego and stuff, is that gonna get the better of him?
Yeah.
Is he gonna be, like, cruel to, like, the former nobility and stuff like that, and I have plus Well of Ascension because there's this whole thing where it's like, it's the Well of Ascension specifically, it's like, oh, he went up to the Well of Ascension, and then, like, and then he seems to be different, like, it's like, oh, you can, which I don't know if we've gotten to that part per se. Well, I think
just kind of, we've seen it in, like, the logbook entries,
yeah. Where it's like, oh, this, like, this power, this, like, gonna go to the Well of Ascension, and then it's like,
like, will I do what I'm supposed to with it and everything?
Yeah. And it's like,
or will I use it for myself or whatever?
Right, and so it's like, Kel won't be doing, like, that. He won't have that kind of, like, he's not gonna have the power of, like, the Lord Ruler all of a sudden, because he's not gonna have, like, this, like, ascension thing or whatnot, but it's like, is he gonna have an actually, like, just government and whatnot? Should he take over? So there's, like, some concerns about Kel coming from our old pal Vin here.
Yeah, and they all seem to kind of be talking behind his back a little bit. It's like, he frightens me sometimes. It seems like he wants to kill all of them, no matter who they are. I'm concerned about him too, Ham said. This 11th metal business. It's almost like he's making himself out to be some kind of holy man.
Yeah. And that also feels like sort of paralleling to an extent the Lord Ruler and his sort of,
because it's a theocracy and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, is Kel just sort of setting himself up to be another Lord Ruler?
Yeah.
Which does get directly sort of, like, talked about later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kel always hated nobility, but it's worse now.
Yeah.
And Ham talks about mercenaries. Everyone's just trying to get by, and how it's like. It's like, no, like, wouldn't you feel bad about, like, killing them? It's like, I mean, they wouldn't feel bad about killing me.
Yeah. But you're gonna betray them, Vin said softly, pulling Ham to the side of the road. Betray? He asked. No, it won't be a betrayal. Those men are mercenaries, Vin. They've been hired to fight, and they'll attack friends, even relatives, in a riot or a rebellion. Soldiers learn to understand these kinds of things. We may be friends, but when it comes to fighting, none of us would hesitate to kill the others.
Yep. Everyone's just trying to get by.
That's what life is. Harsh. That part of Vreen's teaching wasn't a lie.
Yep. And then my next note is pewter dragging.
Yep.
We hear reference of pewter dragging.
Yeah.
And we hear Ham talk about, like, more subtle ways to use pewter.
Yeah.
Like, if you're using pewter in the fight, just burning it all the time is not the best. You want to burn it strategically, so that you can, like, pace yourself.
Yeah.
Just, like, a little bit faster to dodge, a little bit stronger when you need to hit, but not just, like, going all out all the time, because that's going to, like, put stress on you, and also it's, like, you're giving away how, you know, your limits and all that sort of stuff, and the best soldier's the one who survives the battle, so you got to pace yourself, which is interesting. And then we learn about how the garrison's about to go quash a rebellion.
Yep. And we're like, oh fuck, oh
shit, oh fuck. Yeah,
it's just starting to happen. Things are falling apart.
Yep, and the guy's like, hey Ham, you wanna come help us like go quash this rebellion? I'll make you an officer.
Yep,
like right away.
You get extra battle pay.
You get like real battle pay. And Vin's just like listening to this, and Ham's like, I'll do it. And when I was first listening to this, I was like, oh no, no, it's happening immediately.
I was just thinking about
this. and then my first note for chapter 25 is, yay, no Ham betrayal. Because at the beginning of chapter 5, we're like back at the hideout, and it's like, yeah, we need like a man on the inside. Yeah. And also, and
so Kelsier's like, go with him, like you said.
Yep, and it's like, I'm not gonna like kill these garrison people if they think I'm an ally. And he's like, well, try not to kill our people either.
Yep, fine, but I sincerely hope you can find a way not to kill any of our soldiers either.
And and then, you know, Kel's like, all right, I'm gonna go run over to the caves and to our troops, and Vin's like, me too, I'm already packed and ready to go. And it's time for Vin's Infinite Run.
Yep.
Vin's Infinite Run gives me cross-country flashbacks. I did cross-country in high school, and some of this stuff really, like, I'm like, yeah, I feel you, Vin.
Yeah, the way it's described with...
Yeah, because it's, like, just, like, burning pewter for, like, an excessive period of time, just running all out.
Yeah, just getting into that kind of, like, almost, like, numb headspace of just, like, going and going.
My favorite is when Vin's like, I hate this. He's like, I hate running. This is why I live in the city instead of the country, so I wouldn't have to run. And then it's like, she knew.
Something within her knew that the thought didn't make any kind of sense. However, lucidity was not currently one of her virtues.
Yep.
I hate Kelsier too.
I hate Kelsier too. It's so real. You're just like running. You're just like, I hate it. You just get to a certain point, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you aren't thinking clearly for sure. For me, I would just like get like a phrase or like a bit of a song, not even like a whole song, just like a tiny bit of a song, and it would just be like repeating over and over in my head, because like my brain just couldn't like think of anything else. And you just got to keep going. And she has a bit where she's like, I feel like if I stopped, I, you know, wouldn't be able to keep going again. And like that's such a thing where it's like in cross country you learn that like as soon as you start walking, it's over. Like, you know, you never walk for a little bit and then run the rest of it. You're gonna be off and on walking and running the rest of the way, or just walking the whole way. It's like it's over at that point. You gotta just like, even if you're jogging as slowly as possible, you can't start walking, or else it's over.
Yep, otherwise you're not gonna move again.
You're just not gonna move again. And also it makes me think of after a meet, my thing was, I'm not sitting down until I'm sitting down on the bus.
Yeah.
Because if I sit down before sitting down on the bus, I'm not going to want to stand. It's going to be so much worse to stand up and then go to the bus. So it's like, I only sit when I'm on the bus. And then, you know, standing up, getting off the bus later.
Yeah.
To go like eat or something. It's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And Vin just gets absolutely fucking like worn out.
Yep, yeah, so they run for literally 16 hours on pewter.
Yep.
They sprint, more than sprint, for 16 hours.
Yes, and at the end she's like trying to like keep running.
This is wrong, she thought. I can't simply stand here. I have to be moving. She felt herself begin to move again, but Kelsier grabbed her. She struggled in his grip, resisting weakly. Rest, something said within her head. Relax, you've forgotten what that is, but it's so nice. Vin, Kelsier said, don't extinguish your pewter. Keep it burning or you'll fall unconscious.
Yep. And then makes her
flare tin so that she kind of feels a bit of a headache. And,
so she kind of like shocks herself back to like her senses, essentially. Yep. Shocks her system a little bit.
Yeah. You've done something incredibly unfair to your body, Kelsier said. It should have shut down hours ago, but you have pewter to make it keep going. You'll recover. You'll even get better at pushing yourself like this. But right now, you just have to keep burning the pewter and stay awake. We can sleep later.
Yep. And then we get to, like, we're seeing kind of, like, battle happen.
Yep. Yeah, we just see, it just says they cross the hill and they see blood.
Yeah.
They smell blood and they see the battle and they're just...
Yeah. Getting destroyed. And Vin is like... Kelsier, you're not invincible, which is what, she was told.
Yeah.
Because he wants to go in and save them.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are you going to do? You're one person. Like,
against, a literal...
Against a literal army. It's like the two of us versus, like, a literal army is not...
And Vin would not be very useful right now. She's, like... hardly conscious.
She's hardly there right now, and so they're like, instead, let's go to the caves, see if anyone stayed behind, and try and save them. Which, succeeds.
Yeah.
Because we get down there, and at first Kel's like, there's no one here.
Yeah.
But Vin
sees something, and Kelsier's like surprised that she was able to...
Yeah, it's like, how was she able to see that?
Yeah.
And, some people stayed behind. The people who were old enough to know that it was foolish and young enough to be scared.
Yep.
And so it was not all the sort of people in, like, their prime, as it were. But Eden was like, I'm gonna go, it's like, Eden's like, I'm gonna go test the army by taking this one place, and, like, it went alright, but then...
Yeah, they took, the Holstepgerson, I believe.
Yeah.
And then they got intercepted by the other one on the way back.
Yep, and just got absolutely destroyed. And
So then they run into Captain Demu.
Yes, Captain Demu.
And Menace. Got everyone ready to, like, leave and everything.
Yes, I have the return of Menace.
Yes.
From the prologue.
Yep, the prologue.
Yep, and it's like, oh, hey, it's him. It all comes back.
Yep.
So Menace is there, and Menace and Kel have a little talk as Kel confronts the day's events.
Yep.
He finally lets himself confront the day's events. And he's like, well, fuck.
That night, sitting on a tree stump with the mists gathering around him, Kelsier finally forced himself to confront the day's events.
Yep.
And, like, they lost about 5,000, in that, like, battle and everything. There's about 5,000 that went, and there are 2,000 left over.
Yeah.
The 2,000 that went back that stayed in the caves.
Gotcha. Which is like, okay, that's more than I kind of thought. I'd like the exact number just sort of often kind of just I can't think of a good fucking expression for it. It just like rolls over me, just like the number just passes through my brain and doesn't stick. And so it's like, oh, 2,000, that's I mean, it's still like losing 5,000 of them. It's like 2,000 of 7,000 isn't good, but still 2,000 is like more than I was like expecting. It's still like a decent number of people. Just like generally.
And then they were split into cells. They they end up splitting them into cells throughout the
city, hiding them throughout the city by splitting them into smaller groups.
And telling each of them, well, doesn't happen until a little bit later, but by telling each group that they're the only ones that weren't disbanded. Yep.
And so I have noted in here, because when Menace is talking to Kelsier, he talks about how because Kelsier's feeling like super guilty. He's like, I led them to do this. Essentially, I gave them all this like false hope or whatever, and like got Eden whatever, and Menace is like, like even now just trying to like say like how it is that he did it. It's like it's Menace is like, no, they made the choice to do that. You gave them motivation, but they made the dumb fucking choice to go do it. And Eden's too easily impressionable, and some of his like higher ups, like some of the higher ups in the army, like convinced him it'd be a good idea to go, fuck around and and take this place or whatever. This is a victory, essentially.
Yeah.
Is what Menace is saying. It's
Yeah.
like, this is the biggest victory that the Sky Rebellion's had in, like, you know, a century.
Yeah.
And Kelsier's just like kind of crushed by that.
Yep.
Not like fully, of course, but just sort of like, like, really,
like this is what I'm fighting against or whatever. 1,000 years of conditioning that like it just can't happen.
Yep. And I wrote in a glorious history of defeat, which is something. So God, I can never remember exactly where this comes from. I think it's just like I don't think this was like a big quote, like a quote from someone big. I think this is just like something that like my dad's like colleague said, because my dad was like a professor in an English department, so just like another English professor, saying that there's it's like Irish literature and Southern literature both share this theme, which is a history of glorious defeat. And just like, you know, with the Irish, it's always just like, and then we fought the English and we were defeated, and then we rose up against the English and we were defeated.
Yeah.
And the South, it's like the one glorious defeat, which was the Civil War, as, you know, glorious in quotes, of course.
Right.
But yeah, and so hearing about like the Sky Rebellion, I'm like, oh, they're Irish. A history of glorious defeat. This will be the greatest victory we've had in a long time. And it's an absolute crushing defeat. It's like we destroyed one thing and then we're utterly wiped out. So yeah, that's and that's kind of how that chapter ends.
Yep, and then that was actually the end of part 3.
Mm-hmm. And what's the next part called?
Dancers in a Sea of Mist.
Dancers in a Sea of Mist. And then we do end up like getting completely through that during our section, don't we? Or do we not get all the way through it?
No, we're almost to the end of part 4 though.
Almost to the end of part 4. Gotcha.
We'll finish part 4 in the next section.
Finish part 4 in the next section?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, because it's like we're gonna be, if we're going through chapter 35, we're going to be, like, one chapter into the next section.
Yeah.
Right. So, with chapter 26, my first note is Vin's got pewter hangover.
Yeah.
And she's like, ale. It's like, it's not even noon. Ale. And it's bad. It's real bad. It's so bad. It's like, they're like, Vin and them are like talking about how shit's fucked.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the whole army got fucked up.
And then also, first at the beginning, it took them 2 weeks to get back, and it took them a day, 16 hours to run there.
Right. Yeah. Right. I forgot about that.
But yeah.
Yeah, because they talked about, like, you know, it would be slower going on a boat, and also it's like, how fast they were running would have been slower than a horse's gallop, but a horse couldn't gallop for
that long,
For that long. Yeah, and so it's like they're talking about how everything's fucked.
Yep.
And then Kel comes in and is like, do. Oh, Epigraphs?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, Kel.
Yeah.
Maybe read the room.
Kelsier swept into the kitchen. Good morning, all, he said, with customary cheerfulness. Epigraphs again, I see. Clubs really need to hire more imaginative housemaids. Then he smiled pleasantly and poured himself something to drink.
Yep. And everyone's just kind of like, read the room, Kel.
Yeah, they're all like kind of looking at each other. Kel, we need to talk. The army is gone.
Yeah. And so, like, they're trying to, like, talk to him about that.
Yeah. And then Breeze tries to soothe him.
Yes, Breeze tries to soothe him, and Kelsier is not happy about that.
Yeah.
But Breeze is just like, fine then, I'll just convince you with the truth. Shit's fucked.
Yep.
It's all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah, I like this little thing that he says here. I won't use allomancy, I'll just use the truth. Do you know what I think? I think that you never intended to grab that ATM. You've been using us. You promised us wealth so we would join you, but you never had any intention of making us rich. This is all about your ego. It's about becoming the most famous crew leader that ever lived. That's why you're spreading all these rumors, doing all this recruitment. You've known wealth, now you want to become a legend.
Yep, and that's the part that kind of ties into one of the like opening bits where it's like, are they going to see me as someone who saved them from the deepness, or as person who tried to make himself a legend. And it just makes me think of Kelsier right here. It's like, I don't think you're actually trying to, like, it's like, he says, like, you're not actually trying to make us rich, you're trying to make yourself a legend, when also we know it's like, Kelsier's trying to, like, fucking do the rebellion. Like,
he wants the...
He wants the rebellion. That's the part that he really wants.
He was using the riches stuff to get
the other people involved as, like, an excuse. And that becomes more, like, explicit as this chapter goes on. He sort of talks about that. But, like, we've already just, like, from being in his head.
Kind of already knew that.
We just kind of already knew this from, like, being in his head in previous chapters and just sort of, like, his actions and stuff. That's, like, he is genuinely trying to do good, but also there's, like, this sort of concern and, like, this image about him. So again, it just makes me wonder about, like, the Lord Ruler and what's going on there. Because it's like, obviously the Lord Ruler is bad. Like, like, there's no denying that. But it's just like, what happened? What, like, why? What was he? What's... And it's like, if Kelsier becomes the new Lord Ruler, would he be better? You know? But it's like, he's not going to be the new Lord Ruler. He's just going to, you know, kill the Lord Ruler. Hopefully.
He said he doesn't want to be... in charge. But Eden's dead now, so
dead now, so it's like, who's it gonna be? My guess is more like Marsh. Because Marsh is the one who's competent. And also Marsh is the one who was previously leader of the rebellion. So it just kind of, like, makes sense that it would go, like, back to Marsh, essentially. It's like, we can just let Marsh and Doxson figure it out. I almost said Marks, because Marsh and Doxson. Marsh and Doxson. We'll let Marks figure it out. That's funny. But yeah, and then
executions.
And then the executions start. Was it Spook? The Spook?
Yes, Spook comes and tells them.
Yeah, Spook comes in and tells them executions happening. And you know, there's like a gathering in the Fountain Square or something like that. And hoo boy. Hoo boy. We get it. It's a great scene.
Like, it's a good, like, passage and everything. Kelsier has, like, this big kind of speech where he's like, this is what we're fighting against, you know.
Right, well, because what's happening is, it's like, you know, all these people are gathered, and we see, like, this procession come up, and the Lord Ruler's there, in, like, a carriage. And his fucking dread aura is hitting everyone, and they can feel it even with the copper going, right? It's like they can feel his dampening effect even with the copper going, which shouldn't be how it works. And that's going to get brought up again later, and Kelsier's going to give an excuse, and I don't buy it. But there's, like, a whole thing where it's like, you know, fucking, like, she's using copper, and, what's his name is also using copper, you know, clubs, because, like, it's a whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think he's just so powerful that he can go through, like, a copper...
Yeah, and that's what I what I think too. It's just that, like, later Kelsier is going to be like, no, that's not possible, and I just don't believe him. Because it's like, yes, my copper is on, you're safe. Talking about, like, hiding the Allomancy, but it's like, so it's like his copper is on, but they're still, like, feeling it, you know? Because it's like, it strangely disappeared. Vin glanced around, her eyes found Kelsier. He's riding our emotions. He's counteracting the Lord Ruler's power. There's obviously a struggle for Kelsier to protect even their small group. So it's like Kelsier's rioting their emotions to counteract the soothing. And so it's like, even though fucking, you know, the copper's on, right? So it's like, he fucking knows what's happening. Yeah, so it's just like, so him later being like, you just think that you could feel it because he's super powerful and you feel like you should be able to feel it. It's like, Kelsier, what do you mean? You were there. You were feeling it.
Yeah, I don't know. They might not have been feeling it, but he just was riding them to just, like, make them feel better, but only Vin actually, like, was actually feeling it.
Maybe, but it's just, or like, why would Vin be the only one who's feeling it?
Right.
And also, like, later she says that, like, her copper was burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a whole thing. There's just, like, a whole thing there where it's, like, the Lord Ruler's got his, like, soothing going on. And it's, like, this huge thing. And Kelsier's doing the rioting. And then there's, like, the copper. And there's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he gives, like, a whole, like, speech.
Yeah.
About, like... I'm getting ahead of myself again. there's a big procession. The Lord Ruler's there.
Yeah,
they have a whole bunch of ska that they're just like executing four at a time into the fountain.
Yes.
And they're not any ska in particular.
No.
They're not the soldiers, they're not the soldiers' families, they're just random ska for the purposes of, like, flexing power.
Basically,
of being like, how dare you rebel, not necessarily you specifically, because they're like, they probably assume that's like a country rebellion, but just like, you as in ska in general. It's like, know your place. Yeah. And that's what the executions are all about. And so, Kelsier is having this whole speech about how it's like, listen, this is fucking happening, and you can't pretend like it's not happening, and you can act like, oh, you know, the plan and the money and all that. It was never about that. It was about this. Yeah. It was about stopping this from happening and keeping this from continuing to happen. And as it's going on, we just get 4 more deaths. Yeah. 4 more deaths.
Yep, just in the middle of, like, every couple paragraphs.
Yep, and it makes me think of, again, it's very different in terms of, like, what's actually happening, but stylistically it reminds me of some of the stuff that, like, Jordan does. Yeah. With, like, the flicker section. Yeah. You know, just, like, he does things like that sometimes, and I feel like Sanderson is, like, doing a similar kind of thing, and very effectively. I enjoy that kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good, like, section here.
Yep.
Yeah, and he specifically confronts, like, I know that you guys have been, like, talking about me and thinking this shit, but, like, you know.
Yeah, and specifically is, like, you know, that I'm setting myself up as another Lord Ruler or something like that.
You whisper that I'm making myself into another Lord Ruler. You think my ego is more important to me than overthrowing the Empire. You're wrong. You have to trust me. And then,
yeah, but see, it's like, you know, Kelsier, like, you're right about how important this all is and about trying to do the rebellion, but it's also like, it doesn't make me feel better when you're like, so trust me blindly and do whatever I say no matter what. It doesn't make me feel better about this not being about your ego and about you, like, not setting yourself up as another Lord Ruler.
Yeah, because he explicitly says, like, don't question me. Like, if we're doing this, like, don't question me.
Like, you can question the job.
But, like, if it comes down to it, like, you gotta follow me.
Yeah, you gotta, like, follow my leadership, and it's like, I trust you, Kelsier. I've been in your head and stuff, but also it's like, you're not, like, I don't know. You're not doing yourself any favors.
He's not necessarily, I mean, we do know Kelsier and have been in his head. He is not necessarily the most stable person.
No. Like,
and he will say that he's, you know, outright about that. He's not stable.
Yeah, it's just like, my guy, what are you doing? Yeah. But it is still just like, yeah.
Yeah, and so then he also points out, like, you know, it's not, the plan isn't as, like, dead as they kind of thought, you know, like, the garrison's undermanned because they're going out and trying to hunt the rebels still.
Yep, he's like, we got part 1 of the plan accomplished, we got the garrison out. Yep. Because it's like, they're going to be out hunting rebels for, like, months, like, getting the stragglers that, like, ran away from the initial conflict and stuff. And and also he's like, the plan is, with the house war, is to try and, like, during the chaos, like, get the ATM and stuff. Yeah. And if, like, the garrison comes back and we have the ATM, we have the money, they're mercenaries, we get the army. Yeah. Get the money, get the garrison, is what I have written down. Yeah. And I also have the piercings of the hero, because that was from the epigraph.
Yep. Yeah.
And it made me think of Wheel of Time.
Yep.
The terracemen make me think of the Aiel with the way he's talking about them. Yeah. And the way he's like, you know, it just, again, if you've read Wheel of Time, you'll be like, yeah, I see it. And if you haven't, you'll be like, whatever, stop talking about it.
But yeah, so now we're at chapter 27?
Yep, chapter 27. And my notes for chapter 27 are also a little funky, because the only notes that I took for chapter 27 were about the Allomancy the first time. And so I did some more notes kind of before that. But there's stuff that happens before my first notes. Because my very first notes are still about, like, the Allomancy and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so first they're just kind of talking more about, like, planning still, like, the new plan, like, putting financial strain on the houses, doing, like, focusing more on the house war than before.
Right, that's why I don't have as many notes, because it's, like...
Yeah, kind of planning and stuff.
Yeah.
And, putting Doc, Sind, and Breeze back out in the...
Right, yeah. It's like, y'all go talk to the rebels, and it's like, why us? We need to know who their leaders are. And also, it's like, tell them, each of them, that they're the only group that didn't get disbanded.
Yep.
To try and keep them from knowing about the other ones, so that if any group gets found out, they don't betray the other groups. They can't, like, they don't have any information to give away. And, yeah.
And then they're telling Vin to try and get some information on Venture's, like, finances and, like, weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, I don't want to. Not out loud, but she's like, I don't want to. Yeah. And then what?
And then they get a message from Marsh.
Right. They're gonna go. Yeah. They're gonna go hang out with Marsh.
Yep. And meet with him.
Mm-hmm. Meet with him and learn some stuff. And, like, on the way there, I think Vin's like, hey, what's the deal with gold?
Yeah. Well, first she asks him about the 11th metal, because she's like, is it real? Like, are the legends
like, for real?
Are the legends real? Are you lying? Like, what is going on? And
what's going on?
He's just like, yeah, it's real. What I showed you is what I think the 11th metal is. I've never tried it, and I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you mean you don't know how to use it? Just, like, try it. And it's like, well, here's the thing. If you burn a metal that's not a metal that you're supposed to burn, then it'll just fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And so she's like, so you're not, like, 100% sure that this is the metal? And it's just kind of like, well... It's like, so you're not as sure as you think you are. It's like, I'm pretty sure this is the 11th metal, but, like, I haven't tried it yet because it could fucking kill me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So he's taking a bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
But he's also like, I don't think the Lord Ruler will be as much of an issue as you think.
Yeah.
He's not omnipotent. He's not omniscient. He's not actually God. He's just a guy who's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's like, true. But he is really powerful, and that does mean something. Yeah, and then gold?
Yes. And then gold.
Yeah, because...
first, she asks him about ferrochemy real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, Seiza didn't have time to tell me about ferrochemy.
Mm-hmm.
Or to tell me much. What kind of things can it do to get more info?
Right, and so then they're comparing allomancy and ferrochemy. And I have my bit about... Lord Ruler doesn't talk about allomancy, but talks about ferrochemy in the logbook.
Yeah.
And he ends up giving the nobles allomancy after his ascension. And I was like, maybe they're related. Maybe ferrochemy and allomancy are related. Because they talk about how it's like, he never talks about allomancy. He talks about ferrochemy, but he never talks about allomancy. So it's like, he probably didn't... It's like, oh, he didn't snap until, like, afterwards. But it's like... Did he just, like, not know about it at all? You know? Because it's like, it was like, why wouldn't you compare them? Because they have these, like, similar things going on with ferrochemy and allomancy. And so I'm like... And he ends up, like... breeding the Terracemen, doing like the Terracemen breeding program stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I'm like, are they related? Is ferrochemy a genetic thing? Is allomancy purely a genetic thing? It seems like it's purely a genetic thing, but like, why? He also gave it to them.
Yeah.
So it's like he gave them this genetic thing. How does that work? And it's like, if you had a noble have a child with a Terraceman, then like that child, assuming that both of these things are generic, and if we bred enough of them together, would we eventually get someone who can do both allomancy and ferrochemy? And if so, what would that mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, we see, like, you know, later we see Vin attempting some stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like... So I'll get more into that later, but I'm just like, is allomancy somehow related to ferrochemy?
Yeah.
Because it's like, they even use some of the same, like, metals for things.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like... What does it mean? What is the deal? I want to know. Yeah.
Yep.
And so then I'm guessing with them talking about that is how they get on to like the metals and get on to like what's the 9th metal? Or is that like not until even after talking to Marsh?
No, they it's before they meet with Marsh.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna learn about the 9th metal.
Yeah, gold.
And she's like, hey, you never told me about what the ninth metal is. And my note was, thank you, Vin. And then my other notes are, drugs, drugs, drugs. Yep. What a weird metal. Gold lets you see alternate U's. Gold shadow, alternate U. So it's like, hey, here's the metal that lets you see an alternate timeline for yourself, who you could have been if things had been different in the past. And it's like, what? What? Like, that's such a weird metal. And I'm like, you wouldn't just bring this up and you wouldn't put this in the story unless you had like a reason. So it's like, how like, this is going to be useful somehow in the future, and I'm just like, how? Why is it going to be useful that, like, Vin knew gold? I don't know. I'm like, unless it's like, it could be some shit where it's like, okay, Brandon Sanderson's like, given the shit that I've come up with, ATM does time in this way, so I need something that does time in a different way, so for, like, completeness sake, here it is. But it's like, like... I don't know. I'm just like, it's so weird. It's such a weird one.
It really is. That's what Kelsier said earlier. He's like, you don't
really need to. You don't need to worry about it. It doesn't do anything like useful for you beyond give you an existential crisis. Do you want a free existential crisis and a free like here's what would have happened? Like, that's no good. I just imagine that the Lord Ruler sits around eating gold all day and being like, what I could have been instead of this piece of shit that I am. But who knows? Who truly knows? Because we haven't fucking talked to him. Like, other people are like, we've seen him. We've met him. He's just a guy who shows up to parties and we talk to him. It's like, where is this motherfucker? Let me talk to him. What's his deal now? I've seen all this logbook stuff. So at some point I'm going to have to meet him. And it's going to be like, what are you like? What are you like now? And that's what I got. And I also have...
That was Tilly.
Yeah?
What are you growling about?
I think she hears another dog.
Come here.
You good? Yeah, a little tail wag tells me you're good. But yeah, so the next thing is like Marsh. I actually like get to Marsh. And start talking to him. And Marsh knows more about the ministry than most acolytes.
Yeah, and as soon as Vin sees him, she's like, you have ministry tattoos. Because he got the tattoos to infiltrate.
Yep. He and it's funny because like way back in like the early days of reading this, I was like confused a little bit, and I thought that like Marsh was like already an obligator. Back whenever he was like able to find her.
Just described as a seeker.
Yeah. And so it's like I thought that meant that he was like an obligator, and so I thought that he like was already in the organization posing. Back like in the early days, and then you like told me that wasn't the case or something. And now it's true. It's like I was just getting ahead of myself. I could see it coming, you know. But yeah, Marsh knows more about the ministry than most acolytes because he's like, I studied hard, and I was like, I'm gonna be at a disadvantage because I haven't been like, you know, training for whatever, and then it turns out that actually...
Well, it's actually... However, I apparently know more about the ministry than some of its members do.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. It's just like... we find out about the soothing.
Yes, he tells them that he found out about the soothing stations that they have all over the city.
Yep, all over the city they have these little stations where they have soothers... and smokers and seekers. So they just like hang out and just dampen the emotions of everyone.
And they've got dozens
radius.
of them.
Yeah, they just got like dozens of them. We get like an exact number later. In fact, and something like 34 or something like that. It's like 34 soothing stations. So there's like a bunch of them just throughout like the slums and stuff, keeping people's emotions down, but also they're hidden with smokers, and then they have seekers. seeing if anyone's using allomancy when they're not supposed to, but they're not just going to come out and get you right away, because then that's too obvious, and it reveals where the soothing stations are, as you were saying. And it's like, so it's like, oh man, you know, it's like we knew to be careful in these places, but we were being less careful in the slums. And so it's like, now we know, and it's just like, and I'm like, oh, it's so good. Yeah. It's like, no, we got fucking secret places set up all over where we just fucking keep your emotions down without you even knowing. We just radiate bad vibes at you.
Basically, which, like, makes sense, like, you know, if you want to keep, like, that large of a population, you know, from
rioting.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially since, like, there's so many people in such, like, a dense area.
Yep. It's crazy. It's like, and they're like, oh, I thought the ska in Luthadel seemed more beaten down. I guess it's like, it's true. Like, it's quite literally they're being soothed and whatnot. And I'm like, that's cool. Constantly so soothing the whole population. Yeah,
and Marsh is just, like, be careful with the info, you know, like, this, it's good info, but, you know.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
be careful what you act on.
Right, because if, like, you immediately just start, like, going for them, and it's like, you need to be strategic about what you're going to do with this information, because you can't be, like, too obvious. As soon as they know, and the population knows about the soothing stations, it's like, it's bad.
And Marsh's the canton that he's
yes, he's part of the canton of Inquisition. Yep, so he's getting in with the Inquisitors.
Yes.
And he talks about them, right?
He says, really, so they're not immortal? No, the obligators say that Inquisitors change occasionally. The creatures are exceedingly long-lived, but they do eventually die of old age. New ones must be recruited from noblemen ranks. They're people, Kel. They've merely been changed. If they can die of old age, then there's probably other ways to kill them, too. And then, the Inquisitors don't have many dealings with normal obligators. There's political tension between the two groups. The Lord Prelin leads the church, but the Inquisitors think that they should be in charge.
Oh, yes, and I forgot to mention. Yeah. In the previous chapter with all the executions, I just, like, totally forgot to mention, we see Vin's dad again.
Yes.
That's so important. I'd fucking...
Yeah, because she points him out to, Kelsier.
Yes, and, fucking... God damn it, I have a note here somewhere where, yes, Vin's dad is the Lord Prelin Teridian, and the Lord Prelin is the one who is the head of the ministry, so it's like, Vin, your dad's the Pope.
Yep.
Your dad's the Pope.
Yep.
The Lord Ruler is God, and your dad's the Pope. And so that's crazy. And so then, you know, we see here talking about the Lord Prelin, and there's, like, tension, because it's like, Lord Prelin's in charge, but it's like, the Inquisitors think that they should be in charge, because it's always how it goes with these kinds of things. We were saying it's like the White Cloaks in Wheel of Time, because this is the episode where we keep talking about Wheel of Time. Not that the other ones haven't also.
When is it not?
When is it not the episode where we talk about Wheel of Time? I don't think I have any more notes for this chapter. And I guess that's kind of the last thing. It's just sort of like, they meet up with Marsh and they get this information.
Yeah, and then they're just talking about, we're gonna, House Lake Hell is having a party in a couple days or whatever.
Yes. And so the next chapter, we're there.
Yep.
We are with Vin at the party, and she's looking at stained glass. Yeah. And she's like, hills of emerald green, mountains with wave-like lines coming out of the top, deep dark lake, and blackness. Which I wrote down because I was like, earlier there was a bit where she was looking at
the stuff on the wall in Craddockshaw.
In like Craddockshaw, the like stained glass there, where it's like a sort of a different set of things. Yeah. Where it was like, you know, like a tall mountain, a pool of water. Yeah. The deepness, all that sort of stuff. So it's like kind of similar, but kind of not. Yeah. To the stuff that's like on the stuff here, and she's like, oh, I recognize some of these things from the logbook, funnily enough. Yeah. And
she's thinking, like, he defeated it, but what was it?
Yeah. Weakness. What the fuck was it? He's like, oh, it was sapient. And it's like, because also he's like, you know, it touched its mind or whatever, and it's like, did it fucking, like, take you over? Did the deepness win, and it's taking this guy over, or did this guy just suck? I don't know. Who are you, Lord Ruler? Also, do we have, like, a name for him? Like, a regular-ass name for him? from, like, the logbook or something.
I think Alendi.
Yeah. Because it's, like, yeah, I don't know, because, like, I feel like we would have, like, heard that, but also, it's not, like, nothing's really coming to mind. Yeah, and my next note is Lady Cliss.
Yeah.
Because Vin is talking to Lady Cliss, trying to feed her false information, and I I just really enjoy listening to them, because it's just a lot of, like, I don't know, it's so silly. It's just, like, fucking... It just, I don't know, just something about it's really funny with, like, the way they, like, talk to each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, Vin's whole, like, you know, haven't you heard? It's like, heard what? It's like, oh, you mustn't tell anyone. Forget it, I've already forgotten.
Yeah, yeah,
like, I don't know, just, like, the way he, like, acts it is great. Because she's, like, you know, oh, everyone knows that she's such a gossip. And it's a whole thing. And then she goes and talks to, Elend.
Yes.
She goes and talks to her old pal Elend. And she'd been like, oh, you know, I don't have to, like, take down House Venture.
Yeah.
It would just, like, make things easier, and, like, you know, they're already, like, so rich, and they don't, like, rely on contracts like everyone else does. They're rich and powerful, and so it's, like, they're pretty stable, and so, like, if I can't find a way to, like, take them down, that'll be, like, understandable. And then Ellen's like, Lady Valette, I have to tell you, my house's exact weaknesses.
Yeah.
And, like...
She explicitly is saying, like, do not tell me this. Stop telling this. You really should not trust me with this. And he's just like, la-di-da.
It's like, but, like, I do trust you. It's like, don't you know? Of course you don't. I mean, he didn't say like this. Like, you know, nobody knows. But, like, we're the ones who mine the ATM. Not us, of course. But, like, you know, we run the mines, and our fucking shit is dependent entirely on the Lord Ruler's whims. And, like, a couple years ago, something happened, and we haven't been able to, like, meet the ATM quotas, which isn't good.
That would be Kelsier. Kelsier happened a couple years ago.
Yeah, Kelsier happened a couple years ago and fucked shit up for House Venture. And I
love this. Oh, Elend, you shouldn't be telling me this. Why not? I trust you. Look, you need to understand how dangerous things are. The ATM supply has been having troubles lately. It's like, Ellen.
No, stop. Like, don't tell me this. Why? Don't tell me this. You shouldn't be telling me this. Yeah. And so it's like, Venture mines the ATM secretly. And just the irony of, like, rereading this.
Yeah.
And just, like, knowing how things turn out, given that, like, you know, I had already read and gone ahead.
Yeah, with Sean.
Yes, with, like, Shan and all that. And you know, him being like, you know, I'm probably... She's like... You know, you're not safe.
Yeah.
You know, worry about Shan. It's like, Shan's nothing.
Shan's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Shan, Ellen said with amusement, she's harmless.
She's harmless. She's harmless, don't you know? Yeah. But you should be worried about getting out of the city.
Yeah. It's like, like Renew is like in a bad position or whatever, and like, do they even think of Allomancers and blah blah blah, and like he's wearing gold on his person, and she's like pointing out like,
it's like
you don't think of Allomancers? He's wearing wood.
Yeah, it's just like it's painted wood. It's just like, yeah, it's so funny. I have oh yeah, jewelry is a psyop by the Lord Ruler in the Ministry.
Yeah.
It's like some people say that, like, the Lord Ruler wears jewelry because he knows that the nobility will do it, thus giving the...
power over them.
Power over them because Allomancy and all that sort of stuff, and so just, you know... And, like, it does, like, make some sense.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, jewelry is a psyop by the Lord Ruler in the Ministry to get you to... to get you to wear jewelry and be weak to...
Conspiracy theorist Ellen.
Yes, conspiracy theorist Ellen. But it's true. Kind of, you know.
Right, like, is it a conspiracy theory
if it's true. And it's our first time in Ellen's head.
Yes.
We're getting Ellen's perspective as he's, like, talking to his friends who are like, Ellen...
Yeah.
No, Ellen. I forget exactly what all the shit they say.
Yeah.
But I just love the way that Michael Kramer's, like, voicing them.
First Vin runs into she goes to see Shan for a second. But...
Yes, she goes to see Shan for a second. Shan's like, fuck off. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't need you anymore. Go fuck off. And she's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then
we get into Ellen's head.
And then we get into Ellen's head and with his friends and all that jazz where he's like, you know, he has all these assumptions about Valette and Renew and like, do they even know how to blah 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 blah? It's like, oh, I'm so worried about them. And it's like, and they're like, this whole thing about like, you know, you can't trust her because like, you know, it's just like spy stuff.
I love. You've been spending a lot of time with that Renew girl, Ellen. There's a simple explanation for that, Ellen said. You see, I happen to like her. Not good, Ellen.
Not good, Ellen. That's what it was.
Yep.
Not good, Ellen.
That's Ellen says with a shake of his head. Not good.
Not good. And so then they like, you know, they like talk.
Yeah, there's the... Ellen, you can't avoid the game by saying you don't want to play. It'll find you. Mm-hmm. Renew moved into town just as house tensions began to rise, and he brought with him an unknown scion, a girl who immediately began to woo the most important and available young man in Luthadel. Does that seem odd to you?
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like, we know that's like, they're like, no, try not to go to Ellen.
Yep.
Try not to mess with House Venture. And she goes straight to House Venture on accident. But yeah, and so like, that stuff happens. Ellen goes home.
Yep.
And has a conversation with his dad who sucks.
Yep, Straff.
Yeah, and it's like, he's drunk, seemingly.
Yeah.
Or maybe like, you know, he's certainly like, saying that he was.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I drink too much brandy or whatever. And they have a whole thing. It's like, you've been hanging out with that lady, even though I told you not to. And it's like, you need to go hang out with this other lady, have dinner with her.
Yeah.
For political reasons. And he's like, I'll think about it. And he's like, we're trying to take out House Hastings. And it's like, we should work with House Hastings instead of trying to like, and keep things peaceful instead of trying to like take them down. He doesn't say that. He's just like kind of thinking about it. And also there's a bit where it's like, talk about the Venture Chondra.
Yeah, yep.
And just like offhand.
Is just, his father sat in his chair speaking quietly with Tensoon, the Venture Chondra. Ellen still wasn't used to the creature's most recent body, which has once belonged to a servant in the Hastings household.
Yeah, it's just like, and then that's just it. And then that's just kind of like all we get. And I'm like, motherfucker. Explain it to me, please. Explain how the Chondra and the Mistwraiths are connected, because they are. You can't tell me they're not connected. It's too convenient. Yeah, and then Ellen has a guest. One of his friends is like, I had Valette followed.
Yes, Jestes
is like, I had Valette followed, and her carriage out of town was empty.
Yep, she wasn't in it. She
like got out earlier, and you know, she's a spy. They created the perfect woman for you.
Yep.
Think about it. Vin's a psyop. Where it's like, you know, and then like to describe where it's like, you know, dark hair.
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they created the perfect woman to attract you. Dark-haired, a bit mysterious, and outside the regular political structure. They made her lowbone... Wow.
Lowbone enough?
Yeah, they made her low-born enough that it would be a scandal for you to be interested in her, then set her on you.
Lorebone enough.
Tell me one more time, how did you meet her the first time? She was standing on the balcony, in your reading spot. Everyone knows that's where you usually go. Coincidence?
It's so funny. Because, like, it makes sense. Oh, yeah, like... but it's also just like, no, sometimes things just happen, actually. Yep. Sometimes it is just a coincidence.
Yep. But, like, it makes sense that he would, you know. Mm-hmm. And, like, obviously he cares about like Ellen and wants, it's like, no, there's something like off
here. There's something
fishy
here.
Yeah,
and there is something fishy and off here. It's just not what they think it is.
And he is right about like those like specific signs too. They like just showed up right when the house war was happening. Like, she is involved in the house war. Just like a different faction. So like it's not like crazy to,
Yeah, it's like it's not entirely off, but it's just like, the things.
Yeah, the creating a perfect woman for you,
It's just like so especially funny to me. It's just like I get it, but it's also just like I love. It's like, just think about it. Coincidence? They made her perfect for you. It's like, no, it just happened to work out that way. It's so funny. And that's my last note for 28.
Yep. Yeah, so then Ellen's just like, tell my father I want to make a trade. I'll go to his luncheon. And in exchange, I would like to borrow some spies. To follow someone.
So what's up with that?
Yeah. Chapter 29. So we got 29 and 30.
29 and 30.
And I think this next one, like, it's because there's like a bit of action, so we'll probably not have like as much.
Yes, I feel like that's definitely going to be the case with, like, Chapter 30.
Yeah.
Chapter 29, funnily enough, my first note is creature made of mist attacked Lord Ruler's party.
Yeah, because, I mean, honestly, half of this chapter, I think the first 3 pages, well, at least, like, 2.5 pages, are, the logbook.
Yeah, it's, like, the very end of the logbook.
Yeah, it's just, like, a full, like, section.
Yeah.
Talking about, like, we can see the cavern from our camp. It'll take a few hours of hiking. It's so cold. The wind blows all the time. I fear for Fedek. He hasn't been quite the same since the creature made of mist attacked him.
Yep.
I worry that he will wander off a cliffside or slip through one of the many ice rifts in the ground. Rifts in the ground.
Yeah, because, like, I wonder about that, where I'm like, because he talks about, like, a dark mist, the deepness, and, like, seeing these things that are like a dark mist. But then we also know that there's, like, mist wraiths.
Right.
They're, like, an actual, like, fucking thing that exists. And so I'm like, is it that?
Yeah.
Is it, like, some other thing? And so that was just kind of, like, interesting to me. And then he's like, yep, we're just, like, we're so close, and, like, I'm gonna get, like, this power. It's like, I'll have the power to, like, whatever I wish or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's talking about, like, the terrace men that are with them or whatever, and then, talking about, like...
Rashik hating him.
Yeah, he's like, I confronted Rashik or whatever, and, he did not want to speak to me, of course, but I forced him. Unleashed, he spoke at great length regarding his hatred of Klenium and my people. He thinks we have turned his people into little more than slaves, and terracemen deserve far more. He keeps saying his people should be dominant because of their supernatural powers. I fear his words, for I see some truth in them, because of how strong they are. And then he's like, what will it like when it's all over?
Yeah, that's so interesting. He's like, I see some truth in that, like, they should be dominant because they have this power.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it was already kind of in him.
Yeah.
And so then this idea that he would then, like, create a group that is sort of dominant over another group by giving them power kind of, like, makes some sense if he already kind of had this inclination in him that, like, this sort of, like, might makes right. Because he was like, I have the armies, is something he said earlier. It's like the only difference that I have the army. So he already kind of has this, like, it's like, because also one of the things is like, they're like, oh, whenever you read him, he seems so, like, nice or whatever. But it's also like, well, yeah, but it's also his diary.
Yeah, it's what he thinks of himself.
What he thinks of himself. And so the idea that he would be painting himself in a more positive light, this is like, oh, why would he lie? And it's like, well, he might not see it as lying.
Yeah.
He just, like, has a skewed view of things because, he's biased. And so, yeah, I'm just curious how it's all going to kind of, like, shake out with that.
And then there's also the, like, the Terrace prophecies, I would say that I will have the power to save the world. They hint, however, I will have the power to destroy it as well. I will have the ability to fulfill any wish of my heart. He will take upon the authority that no mortal should hold. Yet the philosophers warned me, if I am self-serving with the power, my selfishness will taint it.
Yeah.
And then, I feel strong now, but what will happen when I touch that power? I will save the world, certainly, but will I try to take it as well? Such are my fears as I scribble with an ice-crusted pen on the eve before the world is reborn. Rashik watches, hating me. The cavern lies above, pulsing. My fingers quiver, not from the cold. Tomorrow it will end.
Yeah. Because he also, like, at some point talks about, like, could anyone resist this temptation or whatever?
Yeah. Is this a burden that any man should bear? Is this a temptation any man could resist?
Yep. And it's very interesting because it's like you can kind of see, it's like as he's going into this, it's like he's hating Rashik.
Yeah.
Which you can sort of like see, it's like he's hating Rashik and sort of like afraid of the terrorist men as he's like going in, while also like kind of like wishing to have the same sort of like power that they had.
Yeah.
And like being, and like, he's like, oh, like worrying about this like selfishness inside of him. So it's like you can almost kind of see, it's like he goes in there and like it just like twists all these things. It's like he's like, I'm going to save the world, and by saving it, like, what is his version of a saved world? Of like, it's like one where the terrorist men are subservient instead of being like domineering over the people through like their power or whatever, this thing that he's afraid of.
Yeah.
And like, creating a powerful group of people who can keep, things in line or whatever, and it's like, from his perspective, would be like, yes, this is absolutely the like right thing to do. And he doesn't realize that he's like being selfish and whatnot, or like, I don't know, like he's justifying it to himself, His twisted desires have created a castle called Credit Show.
I love it.
Because I've been watching Straub play Persona 5. I've never played any Persona game, and so I've been experiencing them for the first time through Straub playing them.
I've only played Persona 5.
Yeah.
But I've never fully finished it. I've I've almost completed it like 4 times. I've played this game like quite a lot, but I've never actually finished it.
Yeah, it's kind of like I've never fully finished Hollow Knight. I've just done like everything except finish Hollow Knight, essentially. That's
basically what I did.
Yeah.
Same with Tears of the Kingdom. Like I did like basically everything in that except for like the story like bits, like the story glyph things that you can go to. Yeah. I did all the other side quests. Like I have like basically all the other armor. Like this.
Yeah, and you were really on that Tears of the Kingdom. Back when it came out, it was your sort of your brain.
Oh yeah, I'll get back on that obsession at some point.
Yep.
But I will start from the beginning.
Yep, you had Zelda brain.
Yep, I had Zelda brain.
Yep, as opposed to book brain.
Yeah, right now I've been in Cosmere brain. So.
Yeah, with the various brains of Straub.
The various brains.
Yep. So yeah, and then Vin talks to Sazed because it's like, all right, about to go into the cave and do the thing.
Yeah.
End of vlog book. It's just like, this can't be the end of it.
She's so annoyed.
She's like, that can't be the end. Where's the rest of it? Like, that is the rest of it.
She's like, say that you better be translating this right now.
Yep. And says, it's like, I feel kind of guilty because I got the most out of this. So there was hardly anything about the Terraceman religion. It's like, yeah, well, hardly anything's more than we had.
Yep.
Which is sad. Yeah. And Sazed talks about one of the religions, one where they believe you have a finite amount of ill fortune, so bad luck means good fortune in the future. And I like that one.
Yeah,
I think that one's fun. Yeah,
the Stolzi were rather advanced. They mixed religion with science quite profoundly. They thought that different colors were indications of different kinds of fortune, and were particularly detailed in their descriptions of light and color.
And they're how we know that the sky was blue and the plants were green. Yep.
Indeed, it's from that we get some of our best ideas as to what things might have looked like before the Ascension. They had a scale of colors and used it to describe the sky of deepest blue and various plants in their shades of green.
Yep. And then I have change is the nature of all things. Vin's being sad again.
Yeah, because she doesn't want everything to change because she actually likes her life right now.
Yeah, she actually likes her life right now, but she's worried about how things are going to change once, like, the job is done.
Yeah.
It's like, either we're all going to be dead, or the job will be done, and we'll all be doing our own things. And so it's like, well, if the job's done, like, correctly, so to say, then, like, we'll have, like, a new government, so maybe things won't be so bad, actually. It's like, well, maybe. And then we talk about, ferrochemy.
Yeah.
and allomancy.
Yeah, and Vin tries to burn some of Sazed's ferrochemical pewter.
Yes, which, like, he stores ferrochemical pewter. He stores strength in pewter with ferrochemy, which is, like, interesting because allomancers burn pewter for strength.
Yes.
And so it's like, they're related.
Yeah, and she says, I can feel the power, Saz. It's faint, far beyond my grasp, but I swear there's another reserve within me, one that only appears when I'm burning your metal. It's faint, you say? Like you can see a shadow of the reserve, but can't access the power itself? Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Yep, and
you cannot access the power because it does not belong to you.
Yep, and it's a whole thing, because it's like when another ferrochemist tries to use someone else's metal.
Yes. Yep.
Which, again, it's like if we had an alchemist ferrochemist, or if we had a allomancer ferrochemist, it's like, would they be able to use both together?
Yeah.
You know? Like, could you store strength in the pewter and then burn your pewter for, like, even more strength, as it were? I don't know, because it's like, she still felt the well of power there. She just couldn't reach it because it wasn't hers. But if it had been hers,
could she have?
But would it have any sort of, like, benefit other than just, like...
Just normal pewter.
Just, like, normal pewter. You know, it's like, if you burned it, it would maybe, like, also give you that strength, but you would just be able to get that strength without burning it anyway.
Yeah.
By just, like, storing it, you know? Like, building up the strength and then storing it. But you could maybe, like, burn the pewter to get a bunch of strength, and then, like... have pewter that you burn to then essentially make a bunch of strength that you then store in another thing of pewter.
Yeah.
So that, like, you know, it's like, instead of being, like, weak while you're storing strength for the future, you can, like, burn pewter to get excess strength, so that excess strength can be stored in different pewter so that you can have it later.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like burning your metals for future use.
Yeah.
So that'd be, like, interesting, maybe. But it's, like, you know, like, oh, yeah. Yeah, so, like, that's, like, the best application that I could think of. But, again, it's, like, could that even happen? Because also, it's, like, he can do ferrochemy, but he's never, like, explained how they do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's, like, how do you do it, and is it different? Like, what is...
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him, like, we saw him wear glasses for a while.
Right.
When, like, storing up sight and stuff like that.
Right, but I mean, like, phenomenologically, what's it like?
Yeah.
Because we're in Vin's head when she's doing it. So we sort of phenomenologically get an idea of, like...
what it looks like, but not what it feels like.
Yes, you know, it's like, oh, she's like, I feel this, like, power reserve. Like, I ingest the metal, and then I feel the power reserve in me, and then I burn it, and I get the effect, and it feels like this. And so it's like, if we were in Saz's head, would it be like, all right, I am now going to start building up this thing into this metal. What's that like? Is it like, you know... when I have the metal in the piercing, do I suddenly feel like like, oh, I can feel that I have, like, that I've installed more storage.
Yeah.
I've installed more storage into my computer, and now I can, like, I feel that, like, emptiness that I can, like, put stuff into.
Yeah.
But, like, how does that work exactly, you know? And it's like, is it genetic like the other one was?
Yeah.
Presumably, considering it's like, oh, only the Terracemen can do this. But it's like...
and there's, I mean, it's the whole, like, forced breeding program.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Right. But I'm just like, you know, because, like, they could do it before the Lord Ruler did that stuff, but it's like, you know...
Yeah, because we hear about it before.
But was it, like, only some of the Terracemen? Could all of them do it? Like, how do you learn it? Could, like, a non-Terraceman learn it? It's, you know, I have questions.
I like all the questions.
Yeah, I just need Brandon Sanderson to come here, and I just need to talk to him. I just need to talk to Brandon Sanderson for a long time.
Some of your questions will have answers.
Some of my questions will definitely have answers, but I also have other unrelated questions.
In the text.
Because my other questions are things like, hey, Brandon Sanderson, you're a fan of Magic the Gathering. Let's talk about what different characters' color combinations in Magic would be. Because that's fun.
Yeah.
Those are also questions that I need to ask. But... so it's like, oh yeah, I have ferrochemy, alchemy, equivalent exchange. Cause,
Yeah.
Because he talks about, like, you can put, like, age in there, but it's like you can only make yourself younger for as long as you make yourself older. Because like, you make yourself older for a little bit of time so that you can make yourself younger for the same amount of time. It's equivalent, you know? You can store up weight, which is weird. You can make yourself lighter to then make yourself heavier later. Or perhaps even the other way around. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, it's wild. And it gives me alchemy vibes. Equivalent exchange. And they talk about, like, well, they talked a while back about sort of like the differences between alchemy and feruchemy in terms of, like, different,
because feruchemy is, like, internal. You're using your own body.
Yeah, but you can do interesting things like, with pewter, you burn it and you can get so strong. But with, like, feruchemy, it's like you've stored up a certain amount of strength. And so it's like you can use it all in one tiny burst and just be, like, super strong.
Yeah.
Or you can, like...
just be like twice as strong for
like a
like a long
spike. Yeah, just like this from where I snap, just like this one like,
in the audio.
Yeah, just like this like line in the audio. Anyway, it's like so you can be like a little bit stronger for a long time or really strong for a really short time because it's just like and then that's like different from how like pewter burning works, which is interesting. And these are like different magic systems and how they work together.
Yep.
And I'm like, I want to know because I feel like also there's probably some sort of like underlying magic system for Cosmere in general, right? That's my like sort of assumption, is that there's like an underlying system that makes all the other magic systems in Cosmere like work, like even if it's like because I know from a meme that like Elantris, all the magic in Elantris comes from this like one thing or something, because someone's like, could so-and-so eat all of it and permanently remove magic from Elantris or something?
Yeah, Nightblood.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know what that means, but like, sure. And so that's funny. And just like, you have reactions to it, and I'm like, what does it mean? But it's like whatever makes that work.
Yeah. It's
like I assume there's sort of like an underlying logic, like whatever the underlying sort of magical physics of the Cosmere universe
that's how I would think of it. Is basically like the underlying physics of the world.
Yeah.
And he kind of describes it as like, you know, we have. Yeah, he describes it as magic physics, basically.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, in our world we have like the standard model of like, you know, quantum physics and stuff like that. And so it's like in the Cosmere world there's like a magical equivalent of the standard model. There's you know, the magical Higgs boson. You know, that gives magic to things.
I can tell you what like atoms are called.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, but like, I'm guessing we'll like get to it at some point, or is this from like some sort of supplemental thing? Where do we learn what atoms are called?
It's in Stormlight.
It's in Stormlight.
But I mean, it's
yeah.
I'll
I'll get there eventually, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's
we Mistborn need not make sense. That's my next thing. Yeah, because it's like crawling under this like wall or whatever, and it's like, I thought that you'd be too proud to cross. Like, we Mistborn are too proud not to cross.
Yeah.
In a dignified manner, of course. Cal, that doesn't make any sense. We Mistborn need not make sense. I just think it's funnier if instead of Mistborn, you just replace it with wizards. Just anytime they talk about Mistborn, just say wizards instead, and imagine like a Gandalf-ass wizard, and it's funnier. And also they have 34 soothing stations because they get a map.
Yeah, they get a map from Marsh in a table leg.
Yes.
It arrived this afternoon in the hollow of a broken table leg that the Canton of Inquisition hired clubs to repair.
Yep.
So he hired Clubs' shop and hid it in the
leg.
Like, which is
And they're like, how did he steal this? He didn't. They just gave it to him.
They gave it to him and asked him for advice.
Yeah, because it turns out Marsh is the most competent person.
Yep.
Just ever. That's the thing. I'm like, when like who's gonna lead the rebellion if not, you know, Kel? If not Yeadon, because Yeadon's dead, it's Marsh. Because Marsh ran the rebellion before.
Yeah.
and he's the most competent one. You put him in the ministry, and they're like, please help us run things. Yeah. You know more about this stuff
ministry than we do.
Because it's like a bunch of like I'm sure it's a bunch of nobles, right, who are in the ministry.
Yeah, you have to be nobility.
You have to be nobility to be in the
ministry.
The military, the military ministry.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like, I imagine there's a certain level, it's like, these nobles, they come in and they learn about the ministry or whatever, but they don't give a shit. This isn't, and someone who's like, no, I actually, really give a shit because I hate you so much. I've learned everything about you. It's almost like whenever, as, an atheist, you sometimes... come at Christian things and so much about them, they're like, what?
I don't know that, and it's like, yeah, well.
It's like that's in there, and it's like, yes, that's people who have a more sort of casual relationship to faith and whatnot, or even have a strong relationship to faith. It's just been so informed by these certain things that it's like, it's like, wait, that's in the Bible? Yeah, that's in the Bible. There's no contradictions in the Bible. Have you read these two things side by side? Just read them side by side, just right next to each other. Right. and Marsh just goes to the ministry, and they're like, wow. Would you look at that? Hey, could you help us set up these soothing stations? Because with everything else going to shit, it's just so nice to be like, yeah, no, Marsh Marsh has his shit together. Yep. Marsh and Dachshund always have their shit together. Yep. Dachshund, runs the day-to-day. Breeze is doing a good job, recruiting people, but they were like, recruitment's going slower than we would have liked. And, Ham is training people, or was training people out in the caves. And that was going well, but it's also, there was tension between him and Cal, and there's there's people who are kind of dissenting, but there's not much that we can do about it. It's this whole group of people. Marsh is just one guy going into the ministry, and so he doesn't have to worry about, and he's just rocking it. Yep. Fucking MVP over here. Him and Dachshund are the real MVPs.
Yep. And he's really putting himself out there.
He is. He got a fucking face tattoo for this shit.
Yep.
So it's I have I really like Marsh. Marsh has a lot of respect. It's he's a thinker. He knows what he's doing, and I appreciate that. It's he doesn't always agree with Calcier, but they are both working towards the same end, even if he kind of resents him in some ways. It's no, I mean, this is still the best fucking option that we have, and he's willing to he's willing to put it all on the line. Yep. He was the rebel leader before Kelsier started doing all this shit. He was willing to put it all on the line,
and doing it without Mistborn powers. Yeah, and all,
exactly. And so it's the idea that he would get these face tattoos and be fully committed to this thing. It's I'm not fucking half-assing it. I am committed to taking this thing down because I hate it. Yep. And because it deserves to go down. It's an awful institution. And he's willing to risk it all. Life, It's his whole life. So yeah, I have big props to Marsh. And also, just now, because, I mean, I've talked too long without bringing up One Piece. I'm just thinking about Dragon, who has his, fucking... thing on his face.
Yeah.
His face mark, whatever that is, a tattoo or whatever it is that he's got on his face, because he doesn't always have it on his face. Yep. But this isn't a One Piece Theory podcast. but Dragon being the leader of a rebellion and having that thing on his face, it's just kind of just kind of a little kind of coincidence there. Hiring crews to take out soothing stations.
Yeah, they want to hire other thieving crews.
Yep, to target the soothing stations, but they're we need to time it well, because they need to take them out. Yep. It can't be basically too much at once, basically. And it's was it 10 thieving crews, each one taking out 3 soothing stations? So there's 34, but it's if they get 10 other crews, and probably also themselves doing this, then that'll get 33, which out of 34, and one crew can pick up the extra. Yeah. I imagine. And so it's we're gonna get all of them to we can get them coordinated to take these things out, because also it's it's within these thieving crews' interest
Yeah, to not have them. Yeah.
To like not have these fucking soothing stations around. It's like, hey, we just found out like some fucking major news.
Yep.
Because it's like they got fucking seekers just like
looking for people. Yep.
Just like on the street. Yep. Like, you know, you don't even need to be in a fucking government place. Like just area, like just out in the fucking slums. They just got seekers just posted up. You know, fucking they're fucking cops at speed traps.
Yep.
They got speed traps set up across the city.
Yeah, but for like executions.
Yes. Imagine, if you will, not a speed trap.
Well.
Yeah. And Vin's keeping secrets because she's not telling Kelsier about the venture secrets.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if like they really need to know right now. It's like not the most important.
Yeah. And Vala lasted longest into the Empire, the religion of...
Oh, yeah, because Kelsey's asking, said, I did want to mention Theron's crew got taken out.
Yes, Theron's crew got taken out. The guy... Theron was the guy who was helping the plot.
Yes.
That
Cayman was doing.
And then he
betrayed him, and then...
Right.
Then they used Theron to get
Marsh into the ministry. Yeah, and then Theron gets taken out, and so Vin's like, uh-oh, they're still on my trail, probably. Yep. And then she's keeping those secrets, and then Kelsier's talking to Sazed about religion.
Yep.
About Vala. Lasted longest into the Empire, and he's like, I just needed to know about people who fought even when there was no hope. Yep. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And
first he was talking about, like, the truths of Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
That were brave seafarers and brilliant cartographers.
Right.
And they did maps of the Final Empire.
They're the Nami religion.
And then also, they were talking about Vala, which their leaders were killed.
Yep. And yet they persisted on, and they were more stubborn than ever. Yep. And he was like, I just needed to know there are people still fighting. And then chapter 30.
Yeah.
The final chapter that we read. Something's off at this party.
Yep.
It's a ball at House Venture.
Yes.
At Keep Venture, and she's like, I forgot how fucking splendid this place is. How like absolutely like gorgeous this all is. It's so much like fancier than even the other big houses.
Yeah.
And something's off. The vibes are off.
It's almost too perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's too perfect. Everyone's being weird. Folks are being cold to Vin.
Yeah.
They're only like staying in their little groups because turns out when Ellen's with like his family.
Yep. Yeah, Ellen is sitting with his family.
Which he never does because Alan fucking hates his family. Yep. All the houses are stopping holding balls. Yep. There was an announcement that was like House Hastings or something
canceled, and then same with
like a bunch of other ones.
Yep.
Just like there's no House Tikio, and they would have been
the next one. Yeah.
The next one, but they're gone, and then other houses are like also canceled, and so this is like the last ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
For like a while, and so it's like everyone's finalizing alliances, and it's scary because Sazed's like, I gotta go leave and tell Kel. Because Kel's being an informant tonight. If he doesn't know about this, then that's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
He needs to know this is going on. And it's like
this is big stuff. He's gotta know.
This is big news. Big news, Morgan. By the way, a very unimportant tangent real quick. Which is that this is just a little joke between me and Straub, which is that I would sometimes say big moose instead of big moose Morgan, which is, and it's like, and big moose Morgan is like a sea cow, or is like a cow man, and instead of news coos delivering them out, it's sea cows like Momu. And so it's like, imagine big old Momu from One Piece, if you're familiar, but with just like one of the little News Coups hats.
The size of a regular News Coup hat.
Yeah, the size of a regular News Coup hat, and like a little satchel. It's like the satchel's tiny, the like strap is long enough that it covers the whole body, but the satchel's just tiny with like the little newspapers, and he just like hands them to you. Just tiny little newspaper with his giant like fin claws. It's great. And that's Big Moose Morgan.
Big Moose Morgan.
Or I guess
Moose Coos.
Yep. Or it could be like Big Moose Norgan. Big Moose Norgan and his news moose.
News moose.
And his news moose. Anyway, that's just a little something to brighten your day, perhaps. Just think about Momu delivering the mail. But anyway, big news. Balls are coming to an end. I just had a really... Balls already came to an end for the Terrace people. That's a bad joke, but... my apologies. Anyway. Vin is like, I can't leave the ball.
Yeah.
Because it'll look bad. Everyone else is here, and if I leave, it'll look bad. So you go tell Kelsey, and I'll stay here. And so, nothing bad could happen when Sazed leaves. And Elend and Vin talk. Vin, like, waves down Elend, and Elend, like, leaves the family table to come talk, and they talk. And Elend's all like, hey... I know that you're a spy.
Yep.
And I can't keep hanging out with you. And Vin's real sad about it.
Yep. Like, this can't change, not yet.
And it's just like, I know. No, you don't.
Yep.
You think you know, but you do not know. Ellen thinks he understands, but he doesn't. And so then they have a scene where it's like, Vin's like, I love him.
Yep. Yeah, well, after she finds out about...
Right,
The
plan, because she talks to Kliss.
Yes.
Because ditzy gossip Kliss is actually an informant who's like, people feed me fake bullshit all the time because they know that I'm a gossip, like you did.
Yep.
You were feeding me fake bullshit. Get fucked. And it's like...
Yeah. She's like, pass on this
message to your uncle, to Lord Renew. Get fucked.
Yeah, if you need information in the future, like it might be hard for you because you're a small house and this whole house war shit. So come to me.
So come to me, and there's also like, don't worry about Ellen.
Yeah, he'll be gone after tonight anyway, or like something like that.
Yeah, he'll be gone soon anyway. And he's like, what? And then gives her a necklace so that Kliss will tell Vin about like. What do you mean? It's Ellen is going to be like one of the first casualties.
Yeah, in the house war.
In the house war for House Venture.
Yeah.
And then Vin casts fear.
She's like, when, where, how? So many questions, but only one necklace, Kliss said idly. It's all I have right now, Vin said truthfully. But it's a very valuable secret, as I said. By telling you, my own life would be, that's it, Vin thought furiously. Stupid aristocratic games. Vin burned zinc and brass, hitting Kliss with a powerful blast of allomancy. She soothed away all the woman's feelings but fear, then took a hold of that fear and yanked it with a firm tug. Yep.
I cast fear on this noble lady. It's like, are you sure? I cast fear on this noble lady. And then it's like, what the fuck is going on? She's like, an allomancer. And like she because she doesn't say it immediately. She like, talks for a little bit.
Yeah, she's like, no wonder Renew brought such a distant cousin with him to Luthadel. You're too late to help him. I'd never sell a secret like this if it had a chance of turning on me. Tell me. He'll be assassinated by Illyrial allomancers this evening. He might be dead already. It was supposed to happen as soon as he withdrew from the Lord's table. But if you want revenge, you'll have to look towards Lord Strathventure for revenge.
Lord Strathventure, this fucker.
Yep, because he's like, he would rather his nephew be the heir, and he wants Elend gone.
Yep. And so now, And so now Vin is like, I gotta fucking go.
Yeah, and Kliss is also like, but he's gonna have a surprise because Elend has like heretical like.
Yes.
He's got like
has heretical
texts and stuff, and so like
he's got Weathered Patterns of the Northern Dominance.
Yeah.
the book that hides the secrets.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's gonna be a whole thing, and it's gonna be a big scandal. Yeah. And Vin starts running. And starts stripping.
Yeah, she takes off her dress and all of that. And...
Yeah, because it's like Vin, it's like she takes off her shoes and her, like, stockings to start running.
Yep.
And then she's like, I need to get on the roof to find...
Yeah, she dashed down a package. Sure. Yep. She dashed down a passage, kicking off her shoes and pulling off her stockings, then running as best she could in the dress. She
It's we're here at the end, and so it's getting tough.
Yep. Yeah. She goes out the rose window.
Yeah. She goes out the window, and she like, because she doesn't just like take her dress off. She like fucking tears
it. Yeah.
She like tears it off, and then like gets rid of like the corset and stuff too. She's just wearing shorts and a shift.
Yeah.
And so she's just like half naked. She like literally described as that at one point, just like running around.
Yeah, here's the other part, because she took off the other stuff first, and then she goes through the window, and then she takes more off. She's like, as she ran, she flared pewter and grabbed her dress near the neck, then ripped the garment down the front with a single yank. She pulled her coin pouch and metal vials from a hidden pocket, and then, still running, she ripped the dress, petticoats, and attached leggings free, tossing it all aside. Her corset and gloves went next. Underneath, she wore a thin, sleeveless white shift and a pair of white shorts.
Yep.
Yeah, and then she's looking, like, she's, like, trying to...
find his balcony. Like, Ellen's room's balcony. Because she's like, if I get to the roof, his room will have a balcony, and I can get to the balcony.
Yeah.
And then fighting happens.
Yep.
She, like, jumps down from the sky and, like... takes her like coin pouch and like explodes it
them in the middle,
in like a spray of coins, and like takes out a bunch of people, and then has like a fight with a bunch more people, including Mistborn Chanelariel, who sounds rad, and her like black shirt and trousers and miscloak and like. Yeah, Shan sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then Shan gets dead.
Yep. It's a very cool fight.
It's a very cool fight. Yeah. It's like, I can't, like...
It's like dodging, like, arrows, using ATM, and like, yeah.
I'm not good at, like, visualizing a lot of this stuff, so, like, in terms of, like, where they were a lot of this time, and, like... It's all a bit like, I don't know who saw what exactly.
Yeah, mainly just some guards saw like Mistborn like fighting on the roof, and so then they were shooting from like a distance.
Yeah, and then like someone gets like dropped down, and she's like hopes that like signals to Ellen to like get the fuck out of there or something?
Yeah, so someone gets pushed through the skylight.
Right, yeah.
Because it's where is it?
Yeah, it's like my notes are Shan's a Mistborn and fight.
Yeah. She came to her feet beside the wounded thug who stood on obviously weak legs. With another flare of pewter, Vin slammed his shoulder into the man's chest, shoving him to the side. The man stumbled maladroitly, still holding his bleeding side. Then he tripped and fell right into the skylight. The fine tinted glass shattered as he fell, and Vin's tin-enhanced ears could hear cries of surprise from below, followed by a crash as the thug hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, "Take the warning, Ellen." And
yep. And then Mistborn standoff, ATM v ATM.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's like what she ends up doing is like, as one of the arrows is going by, she grabs it out of the air and stabs it into her.
Yep.
Which makes sense because the arrow wouldn't have like a bunch of different like futures coming off of it, because the arrow's not doing ATM, the person firing the arrow's not doing ATM. So it's like one of like she would be able to see that like one of her futures is her doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just like the arrow's just suddenly like, you know, you're not just worried about what they're doing and like their arrows and stuff, because you can just dodge them instead of like her like using them to like, and then she like it breaks off and then she jams the other half.
Yeah, because she uses like she like comes up with metal or whatever that or like a sword at her that Shan pushes against, but she just lets it go and stabs her with the
right, because it's like because when it's ATM versus ATM, which becomes kind of like a regular fight, and it's like but she still has the ATM, and so she can still use it to her advantage on the thing to like use things that aren't Shan. Like she can't use it to know what Shan's going to do, but she can still see where the arrows are going to go and stuff, so she can still do crazy dope shit. She just like, you know, it just becomes like
even like just in that like and those two people or whoever's using it
exactly and so it's like it's
so
very
then,
cool
and then she extinguishes it early because she knows that she thinks that Shan probably has more than she does. So she extinguishes it early. Shan gets overconfident and like kind of stalks up, and then Vin uses it again and uses the shock to take her out.
To hit her with the arrow.
Yep.
It's cool. And Vin kills Shan.
Straight up. Just like boom, boom.
There goes
And she goes, and so the house war starts, Vin thought. Didn't think I'd be the one to officially begin it.
Yep. Vin starts the house war.
Yep.
And then that's the end of my notes.
Yeah. There's basically just like that like fight still.
Yeah, so it's like the fight happens, and so then the next chapters we're gonna be getting the aftermath.
Yep.
And the plan is to do chapters 31 through 35. Yep, and hopefully we'll stick to it and not just read on to the end. But who knows? You know. Because part of me was like, what if we just like read on to the end and then just like recorded in parts or whatever. But yeah, it's nice not knowing what's gonna happen for these and stuff. So it's like we went a little bit overboard this time, but and like we're running a little long. But honestly, we've had episodes like roughly this long before, and you know stuff will get cut out and whatnot. So yeah. This has been quite the episode.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
So much cool stuff happened.
Yeah.
And like I'm excited to see how it's all gonna kind of come together in the end, because it's like, how is this job gonna go? We still have 2 more books.
Yep.
We have 2 more like books in this era. What are they gonna? What's it gonna be? Is our plan gonna work? Is it not gonna work? I'm sure it's not gonna work how we think it's gonna work. But like, if they take control, then the next book's gonna be them running the government. Like, what's so it's exciting. It's exciting, and we're gonna get to listen to more Mistborn, which is fun. We'll maybe record again like tomorrow or something even. But that's been this episode.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. So I guess this has been Let's Talk About Book.
Yeah.
And now you are free to think about book on your own time. Have a nice whatever time it is, wherever you are.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.